What is going on? Welcome back to the channel. Today I want to talk to you about Lucid, more specifically institutions and analysts. So I want to go over all the things that you need to know, but first make sure to hit that thumbs up. And with that, let's get right to it. Hopefully everyone's having a good weekend on a side note, but with Q2 concluding, we are now just patiently awaiting all the fun 13Fs coming down the pipeline just to see what institutions have been doing with Lucid. And during Q2, to be fully fair, it was flat. It kind of had one spike up pretty much at the end of May, but other than that, it was not really much activity. So essentially, you would have seen a lot of institutions accumulating more Lucid as they do rebalance, because the broader market did outperform Lucid during that time frame. So when it comes down to it, let's go over some of the recent ones. I want to go more specifically based on this. So you do see the last report. So a lot of them were pretty much at the end of June. And so you do see some institutions that have disclosed so far pretty much did increase. So you had BlackRock, they were at the end of June, so June 29th. They did increase their position by 926,000. So of course that's fairly good. I can go through the specifics on this on a later point in the video. Aside from that, you did have Geode increasing 825,000. You have 𝗪𝗧𝗧𝗛𝗧 Asset. They did increase 3.4 million. So a lot of institutions were, of course, I think during that same time, during Q2, looking for value. A lot of stocks were really running up. They were kind of looking for the stocks that were lagging, that are showing some good improvement. So I think Lucid does kind of meet that criteria as a value play, because it is essentially improving, not profitable yet, but it is improving. It's not a fraud company or scam company, as I would like to put some companies, such as Hologram and a couple others I do cover on other YouTube channels, but I digress. Getting right to it, or continuing on, you have First Trust. They did reduce their position by 941. But the big ones are, of course, BlackRock, which did increase 926, and then Vanguard, they did increase their position as well, and that was, I believe, 900 something thousand. So Vanguard right here, 906,000. So big players both did increase their position in Lucid. Popping over here though, looking at a quarter by quarter basis, but keep in mind, not all institutions have disclosed their 13Fs yet, so more will come down the pipeline, kind of changing these numbers. But on a quarter by quarter basis, institutions did increase 25.82%, strategic entities did increase 9.51%, and then other, aka retail, did increase their position as well. So this is kind of the percentage breakdown. Institutions do hold 73.7% of the overall float, strategic entities 1.51%, and then other, again retail, 24.76%. I'm sure some of you might be wondering, well, how on earth do all of them all go up quarter by quarter? Well, based on 13Fs, some will be reducing, some will be increasing, but Lucid did dilute during Q2, and they've pretty much been diluting a small amount for every single quarter. Of course, some more than others, but that's obviously how you can have all three of these kind of segments and ownership categories move up at the same time. So yeah, I think that's to be expected. Lucid, I think, is generally diluting, but this is kind of the quick update on what institutions have been doing. So I'm sure some of you might be quite excited to hear that both Vanguard and BlackRock did increase their position. Aside from that, though, we have received some new analyst ratings. I've already covered a lot of this in previous videos, so this might be kind of old information, but Morgan Stanley, Adam Jonas, 52% success rating, did maintain their $3 price target, reiterate that. You had Tom, $2, and that was RBC. Tom has a 48% success rating, $3, $3. So that seems to be pretty much the consensus. A lot of that has to do with Lucid's Q2 earning numbers. So most likely a lot of them will kind of reiterate their earnings or give new kind of targets based on their actual numbers. And their earnings is coming out August the 5th. So on a side note, as a consensus over the last 3 months, $2.41 is that price target, representing a 5.24% upside. So analysts, I think, are just patiently waiting for the upcoming earnings just to see the numbers. They're somewhat optimistic on Lucid given where we're at in the price targets, but definitely could be a lot higher in my opinion. And one thing that's really kind of dragging it down is this $1 John Murphy, Bank of America. And it's really sad to see because John Murphy does have a pretty good success rating, 60%. And I know when Lucid was roughly at the $20 range, for those of you that kind of were investing at that stage, but like Bank of America was one of the only bullish institutions that actually liked Lucid. You had Morgan Stanley absolutely leading the charge, hating Lucid. You also had RBC relatively negative. So John Murphy with Bank of America was extremely bullish, but I think just after like miss after miss on a lot of the key metrics, I think he's just turned relatively bearish. And I think just institutional wise, Bank of America has turned very bearish on the broader market for various reasons. I think a lot has to do with Trump and his tariffs, which kind of stepped up a little bit on Friday. But aside from that, though, with some of these new analyst ratings that did come out, so the 4 over the last like week for the most part, there wasn't any change to the earnings per share. But of the 4, they kind of did drag the revenue down. So this is the expected revenue going into the Q2 earnings. So right now, 296.24 million is that consensus based on 11 analysts. Previously, it was 297.06. So it went down slightly. That might be somewhat positive, only because it's kind of lowering the bar a little bit for Lucid. But nonetheless, one of these analysts did really kind of have low expectations for Lucid based on the revenue. So this is a quick video on what institutions have been doing, what analysts have been doing, and everything else. So hopefully everyone's having a good weekend. Stay tuned for my video for tomorrow where I go over some expectations for this upcoming week, what might cause some volatility, good, bad, and the ugly, everything else you need to know. With all that said, appreciate all of you watching. Pop over to my Discord. It is completely free. A lot of people talking about stocks, options, crypto, everything that you ever need in life. So link to that, it's in the description below. With all that said, appreciate all of you watching.